Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Kamari Ellis here, bringing you the Finance Rebel Show. Wanted to stop in and talk about a couple of things real quick today. Of course, we're going to do our word of the day. We're going to do a stock market rundown. We're going to talk about a question I get quite often. Should I use my 401k to pay off my credit cards or my debts? And then we're going to talk a little bit about Liberty Tax versus Department of Justice during our Rogue Advisor segment. So let's jump right into it. All right. So, financial term of the day, liability. In general, a liability is an obligation, or basically is when you owe somebody some money. So anytime you have a mortgage, credit cards, a car loan, personal loan, and there's some more sophisticated and more complicated type of loans or obligations and liabilities out there that people can have, and companies. It's important to understand them. Each one of these things usually has a contract. It's always important to read the contract. It's always important to understand what the terms are. Okay. And a term that's thrown around a lot is bankruptcy. And a lot of times, basically, when you have more liabilities than you have assets, you're typically bankrupt a lot of times. It gets a little bit more technical than that, but that's kind of the overall gist of things. So I wanted to talk about something today because, every now and again, I like to have a little fun. I know I got a lot of gold bugs that pay attention to me and follow me. So, the conversation always comes up, gold's better than stock or Bitcoin's better than stock. Everybody knows I love the stock market because it's just so good. But I wanted to talk about gold today, right? So I had a conversation about gold earlier in the week. And, someone was actually a couple people this week were talking about how great gold is. And basically gold is the new savior, the new financial savior. And I don't have a problem with gold. But, I just wanted to check out the numbers, right? So before we jump into that, year to date, the stock market, the S&P 500 has returned 27.5%. 27.5%. So if you were to put, and, wow, I'm messing up my math. If you would have put in roughly $100 into the stock market, you would have $127 right now. All right. So you put in $100, your $100 would now be worth $127. All right. So, but when we look at gold is at a mere 14% this year. So stock market is kicking gold's butt this year. I know a lot of my gold bugs don't like that. They're going to say gold has outperformed stock over the long haul, which is debatable. All depends on what time frame you're looking at. But again, I always find it fascinating. Here's my official record, right? All assets are good assets as long as you understand them and you know how to leverage them. My personal favorite is the stock market. All right. So you have to find what is good for you. But just going further into this, right? Just looking at stock versus gold over the last 10 years, stock market has returned 162.86%. Gold has returned 65.93%. Now, there were some ups, there were some downs. Depending on the year, gold was up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 years. Stock was up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So it really depends on the year. It really depends on the overall macro environment. When I say macro environment, kind of like the 50,000 foot view of what's going on in the economy. So like an example of a macro event would be the whole U.S.-China trade situation that's going on right now. And I believe being used as a stock market manipulation tool, but that's a whole other conversation. But that's a that is an example of what a macro event looks like. And so gold and stock react differently during different macro market environments. So in 2008, right, stock market fell, everything went bad. Stock market fell 36.97%, almost 37%. Gold was positive 3%. So gold can be great during turbulent times. Gold can be great during questionable times. I would dare to say everybody should have a little bit of gold in their overall portfolio, and you can buy it through the stock market. So those are just some things to think about. But over the long haul, I got to put my money on the stock market. Stock market's always going to be figuring out ways to grow money because stock market is based off of companies' profits. All right. Gold, you just kind of hold it. You hold it for a rainy day. It doesn't pay any dividend. It just sits there. And all for my gold bugs that love to hold their gold at home, make sure you inform your homeowner's policy that you have gold in your home, because I've seen instances where people were burglarized and it wasn't covered, or at least it wasn't covered to the full value. So make sure you get your riders. Make sure you cover that to the fullest extent. I mean, I have some crazy stories about gold and people that love gold. I mean, I never forget there was one guy, and I've talked about this before, but there was one guy who cashed out his 401k. He said he thought the world was coming to an end, and he put it all in gold. So he took a mega hit on his taxes. And guess what? Gold at the time was around $2,000. Then it fell to around 1,000. So he lost about 50% of his money, plus the taxes he paid on it because he took an early withdrawal. So in everything you do, you got to be thinking about the tax implications. Part of the reason why I talk about tax so much is because, to me, tax is the biggest robber of wealth that we have. So, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. So moving right along. This is a question I get a lot. Should I use my 401k to pay off my credit cards or my debt? And when I say 401k, I'm talking 401k, 403b, 457 plans, TSP if you work at the government. It doesn't matter the number, just know that it's a retirement plan. And oftentimes people will have them out there that they can take money out of, or that they can withdraw money from, or take loans from. And I get the question, should I pay off my credit card payments? Should I pay off my debt? Should I pay off my car? Textbook answer, no, you shouldn't do it. Why? Because it took you a while to accumulate those funds. It took you a while to grow that money. It took you a while to build that nest egg that you have for the time in life when you won't be able to work or don't want to work. But here's the not textbook answer. Here's the real life answer. It really depends. When you break down the numbers, most credit cards, interest rates are upwards of 15%. Most 401ks are invested in the stock market in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Typically, they're not getting 15% in rate of return. It really could be a hard argument to defend. But here's the thing. I know that once you take money out of a 401k or out of a big nest egg that you've compiled, it's usually never going to come back. Never. So, you always want to be careful about doing this. But recently, I recommended this strategy to a client of mine, actually 2 clients of mine. They had money at old companies where they used to work. They had separated service. That's the term. And they got a bunch of debt, and they wanted to figure out what to do with it because they basically had an old leftover 401k plan. They wanted to use it to pay off all their debt. They wanted to withdraw the money to pay off all their debt, to be clear, because they took, like I said, they separated from service. They went on to a new job. I came in, looked at the situation, analyzed the debt, looked at the interest rates, looked at the payments. And so what I came up with, because both of these clients actually had businesses, so I suggested to both of them, instead of just taking the money out of your 401k, as a withdrawal or rolling into an IRA, I had them use one of my favorite retirement plans, especially for business owners, a solo 401k. Now, why did I have them roll it over to a solo 401k? I had them roll it over to a solo 401k for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is I can have them take money out of their solo 401k without getting taxed. I had them move the money from the old 401k into a solo 1k because it would give them greater investment options as well. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how do you do that? So I'll give it to you. Give it to you for free. All I ask you to do is share this with people who might be thinking about rolling over their 401ks and using their money to pay off credit card debt. That's all I ask. Just help somebody who needs help. That's all I want. But with the solo 401k, if you are a business owner, this only works if you're a business owner. And you can be a sole proprietor, you can be LLC, you can be S Corp. It doesn't matter. The big caveat is that you cannot have any employees. It can just be you or you and a spouse. So I had them take their money from a 401k, roll it into a from their old 401k and have it roll it over into a solo 401k, sometimes known as an individual K, sometimes also called like a single K. Everybody has their own terminology. But the reason I had them roll it over to a solo 401k is because they can take loans from a solo 401k just like they could their regular 401k at their previous job. And so when they pay the money back, they're paying themselves back with interest. And guess what? We totally avoid taxes. We totally avoid taxes unless you do something crazy and wacky. You don't have to pay any tax because it's not a withdrawal. It's technically not a withdrawal. So you want to think about that. Anytime you're thinking about getting rid of debt, using retirement funds, you want to think about all the different angles. Now, like I said, your average credit card is 15%. In these last two cases, I think the credit cards were around 16, 17%. I think one credit card was as high as 23%. They weren't getting that much money back. It was actually cramping their cash flow and their lifestyle because they were paying so much money. And their liabilities, which was the financial retirement today, right? They were paying so much to them, and it was just so high. So normally I would encourage people to kind of just pay it out of their budget or out of their monthly cash flow when they get their checks. But they didn't have it. And by the way, to establish a solo K, you don't have to be some big mega company. You don't have to be doing 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, or 9 figures. You could work Uber. You could work as a barber. You could work as a mechanic. You could do any of those things. It just has to be a bona fide business. And when you look at the tax code and you look and see what a business is, all of those things that I just named make you a legitimate business owner. So again, please like, comment, and share. Share this with people who you think are struggling with debt, might have some 401ks laying around out there and are trying to figure out ways to keep their heads above water, because most Americans have a lot of debt and no savings. And when you take money out of your 401k, you're kind of putting yourself back in a hole to a large extent because you're dwindling down, part of your bucket of money. All right. Last thing for today. Rogue advisors. I'm always talking about rogue advisors. So if anybody's ever seen any of the big chain companies, the Liberty Tax, the guy with the Liberty Bell that's out there dancing in the middle of the street, twirling the sign, well, guess what? They just got fined by the Department of Justice, a whopping $3 million. It's actually chump change. Between 2013 and 2018, Liberty Tax. Well, the government says Liberty Tax put together a lot of fictitious incomes from fake people they just met randomly. And they said, hey, we're going to come to your returns and we're going to get a refund. And actually, I meant to look this up before I got on, but I just know it. Liberty also got in trouble a couple of years ago for doing their rapid anticipation loan program and stocking up a lot of fees. So a lot of these big companies and these bring your pay stub in and get a refund for the holiday. Those are all loans. In many regards, they're predatory loans, but people don't really think about it like that. But all the big boys, from the H&R Blocks to the Jackson Hewitts to now the Liberty Tax, have all gotten in trouble. And by the way, the same person that started H&R Block helped start Jackson Hewitt and now is working with um, Liberty Tax. So it's like the same shenanigans over and over again, just, you know, remixed over and over and over again. And that guy, the guy who started all that, his name is John Hewitt. All right. So that Hewitt name keeps coming up. But, you know, I'm always, so I get in trouble for this, right? Because I tell it how I see it. I don't really like any of the big chain tax services. If you ever get a chance, just Google H&R Block lawsuit, Google Jackson Hewitt lawsuit, Google Liberty Tax lawsuit, and you'll have a nice Google search there. Google is your friend, people. Google is your friend. And that's not to say tax professionals never make any mistakes. I make mistakes, right? But I have to be accountable for my mistakes. And the intention behind my mistake is never to defraud somebody or defraud the government. So between 2013 and 2018, I believe Jackson Hewitt did about 26 billion. They processed returns in the amount of 26 billion in refunds. Liberty Tax is a pretty big tax franchise. And so the problem is, again, the Department of Justice sued them because allegedly, because they settled, Jackson Hewitt was, I keep mixing the names up. Liberty Tax was hoping to file fraudulent returns at several of their corporate owned stores and at several of their franchises, and supposedly at many of their quote unquote elite franchises where they do the best work. So, you know, you kind of take that with a grain of salt, but I gave you the information. Google all those people, see what their business practices are, see how much they paid out in settlements and in lawsuits. And why does this keep happening? Supposedly, a couple of the franchises have been found guilty of doing some unscrupulous things several years ago, and they just stopped when the government action came. So, you know, part of the settlement was $3 million. John Hewitt is now barred from the industry. I don't even know how that happened, how he keeps coming in, because he has a pattern. He left H&R Block because of whatever reason. Didn't work at Jackson Hewitt, still has his name on it for whatever reason. And then now he's at Liberty Tax. So these shenanigans keep happening. And I mean, that's part of the reason why I do these videos and broadcasts and things like that, because these entities, these stores, these businesses are in our communities. They do a lot of business in our communities, and oftentimes it's not good business. So just keep in mind who you are doing business with. All right. Keep all of that in mind. I'm not going to stay on too much longer. I went longer than I anticipated. But listen, if anybody has any financial questions, tax problems, feel free. Shoot me a text, 484-278-1357. Again, 484-278-1357. And I will try to cover them. I've been getting back into my routine of speaking with you almost daily. I'm going to keep working on that. Pray for me. Keep me encouraged. But I'll see y'all next time. Kamari Ellis out. Have a great day, everybody.